Mike Murphy was just on cable news. He's a longtime GOP consultant. Since I've been in politics a long time, I'm very familiar with him. He worked on Mitt Romney's campaign, John McCain's. So dyed-in-the-wool establishment Republican. So take it for what it's worth. But he says there's tremendous bad blood between Trump and Senate Republicans. And he said, look, they're not yet ready to turn on him. He said if there was a secret vote today, 30 Republicans would vote against him.
No way.
In the Senate, 30
no
Republicans.
Way.
You need 67 to convict if the House impeaches. You need 67 senators. Now, remember the Democrats have a little less obviously than the Republicans. I think it's 53-47. So if all the Democrats hold, 30 Republicans is more than half the Republicans would be easily enough to convict him. Now, it's not a secret vote. So, and you don't know if Mike Murphy is right, but that's a hell of a thing, man.
I have a question for you. Is it possible for Mitch McConnell to block a vote on impeachment in the Senate?
I don't think it's constitutionally possible, but Mitch McConnell will try anything.
Right.
In fact, Colonel Ralph Peters, who is a massive right-wing zealot, who was used to be a Fox News analyst, left in disgust for how much they were covering for Trump's Russian ties. He came on TV today and said that Mitch McConnell would cover for Donald Trump even if he gave Russia the nuclear codes. He said, he's just advancing freedom. Okay, so now look, guys like Ralph Peters turned on Trump a while back, left Fox News, etc., and they're fairly regular staples of cable news. And so it's not overly surprising that Ralph Peters would go over the top, attacking not only Trump, but McConnell now. So that's interesting, right? But Mike Murphy, I have not seen on TV a lot. And so, and he ran these massive Republican campaigns. So it's not a little piddling character and so if he says he knows 30 Republican senators that would vote against Trump, look, you can, like I told you, take it with a grain of salt. You don't know if he's right. You don't know his personal feelings about Trump, etc. But that means there's probably at least 20, and we don't need more than that.
Yeah, you just need a 2/3. I mean, I don't want to say just need a 2/3 majority in the Senate, but
so and the most important part of that story, guys, is that like not only do you not know where you're going to get unless you start, right? But and then you're going to see, and then you're going to put political pressure on. Oh, by the way, he also mentioned, he's like, look, if we keep going like this, we're definitely going to lose Cory Gardner's seat in Colorado. We're going to lose Martha McSally's seat in Arizona, which they didn't think was possible. But now it's on the board and they think they have a good chance of losing it. We're gonna lose Susan Collins in Maine. So the Republican senators are now worried they're going to lose their own seats.
Yes.
And they're worried about keeping their majority. McConnell will then go in the minority. They might get wiped off the map. And so that political dynamic, when they were worried that Trump would primary them or have someone primary them, then they say, I'm gonna protect Trump under all circumstances because I'm worried about me. But now, if they see they're gonna lose their own seats if they support Trump, the me philosophy comes back to, then screw Trump. It's all about me. If I'm gonna lose in Maine, I'm voting against you, brother. But I haven't gotten to the most important part, but yes.
Okay, before you get to the most important part, I can't believe you haven't gotten to the most important part. But anyway, this is the first time I'm hearing about this. Cenk just-
It just broke,
Yeah, it just broke. I want to answer a question that's been posed by a few different people, viewers on Twitter and social media. So the question is, so what's the point if, let's say this vote does happen in the Senate and the Senate doesn't have the 2/3 majority to convict Trump? Look, first of all, having Republican lawmakers on the record supporting Trump's clear criminal actions is important to me. They don't want to make that vote. They don't want to take that vote, right?
Bingo.
So I think it's important. For me, number one, and this is not just about Trump, I would feel the same way if it was a Democratic president doing the exact same thing. We have to have principles. We have to believe in the rule of law. We have to hold the president accountable if he's breaking the law. So on principle alone, I want to move forward with impeachment and I don't want to lead with fear. I want them Democrats to be strong, and I do not want them to narrow the scope of that investigation. Now, moving forward, once it gets to the Senate, which is dominated by Republicans, yeah, I understand that there's a possibility, a pretty decent possibility, that they will not convict him. But I still think it's important to have them on the record taking that vote and voting the way that they will, right? I don't believe in pursuing the right moral actions or avoiding pursuing the right moral actions out of fear that I'm not gonna get my desired result. You have to be strong and you have to do the right thing, and these lawmakers, I'm talking about Democrats, need to actually represent the best interests of voters, and the best interest is to make sure that the president is held accountable for his actions.
Look, they're wrong on principle, but they're also wrong on the law, and they're also wrong on the politics. So principle we just discussed, the law. Nancy Pelosi earlier had said, well, if he's cleared in the Senate, that means you can't hold him accountable legally. That's not true at all. The vote in the Senate is a political vote.
Yep.
Are we removing the president of the United States for high crimes and misdemeanors or bribery and other things that are mentioned, and treason that are mentioned in the Constitution as specific reasons why you could move a political, in this case, the president, a political office holder, right? So that's a political question. It doesn't affect his legal accountability at all. You can still charge him with crimes after he leaves office, even if he is not convicted in the Senate. It's not a legal proceeding in that sense, okay? And then finally, they're wrong on the politics because of two factors. The one that Anna mentioned, which is, look, man, if Susan Collins is a goner if she votes for Trump. We already have him dead to rights. He violated the law by asking them to interfere in our elections, let alone the mountain of other evidence that's gonna come out. And remember, we all know, because a lot of us are knee deep in this, we're neck deep in it because we cover it every single day.
Yeah.
We know all the laws that it broke, including the hush money payments, etc. But most Americans are not knee deep in it. They're like, I know, yeah, he slept with a porn star. But they don't know that Michael Cohen gave him the money to pay off the porn star. And that is definitely illegal. How do I know that? Michael Cohen's in prison for doing that same crime. His co-conspirator was Donald Trump. But the Democrats are so feckless. They never explained that to the American people. They never made their case. That's exactly what an impeachment proceeding does. Which finally leads to the most important point that I was alluding to earlier. Everybody thinks that the Republicans are an unbreakable bloc. They're only unbreakable because of their own personal interests. As we discussed earlier, they would have been primaried. Their donors were saying, hey, let them do the tax cuts for the rich first, right, etc. Now, the reality is behind the scenes, every single person, and these are all right-wingers. So Eric Erickson, who runs a right-wing website, Mike Murphy, etc. They come back and say, no, secretly, the Senate Republicans hate Trump. And why wouldn't they? He constantly attacks them. He constantly undermines them. And their colleagues, like Jeff Sessions, is a terrible guy, but the Senate Republicans loved him.
Yeah,
right?
You think Mitt Romney likes him?
Oh, Mitt Romney despises Donald Trump. And that's the most obvious one. But there's apparently dozens of Republican senators like, when do we vote? When do we vote?
Oh my God.
Like,
if Pelosi bungles this, it'll be the most, I might just drop out of politics completely.
I know. If Democratic leadership wasn't so unbelievably incompetent, this would be a no-brainer. He'd be gone. The only reason why the drama and the soap opera continues is because his opponents are so weak. That's why we're having a conversation. But if somehow a strong Democrat were to actually be able to, they can't take control, but they can affect these proceedings enough, like, no, we are doing this, we're pursuing him on every single act that he did wrong and that is illegal, and I am gonna get his tax records, I'm gonna get the records from Deutsche Bank and find out who co-signed his loans, where did he get his money, etc. Not even close. But you know he's a child, he'll take his ball and go home before he gets spanked. Okay.
Yeah, so that he is a child. I don't know if it's gonna end up that way. I know that's your prediction. There's one other thing I wanted to mention. So in something that was really revealing to me, and we didn't get to it in the story that we covered earlier. So when that story came out about Pelosi wanting to narrow the impeachment investigation to only focus on Ukraine. There was a comment made by a representative. I don't want to cite the wrong representative, but this person specifically said, yeah, this actually makes a lot of sense because it's easier to understand the Ukraine story as opposed to how Trump obstructed justice. I bring that up because understand that there are Democratic lawmakers who read that Mueller report, knew that Trump clearly obstructed justice, and decided to avoid pursuing impeachment because they felt that it would be too difficult to make that case to the American public. So just going back to your comment about them being feckless.
Yeah.
And so ineffective. Ineffective in their job. It's incredible to me.
Yeah, look, if you can't do the job and you think it's too hard to explain things to people, step aside, Butch. We got this. Let AOC do it. Let Rashida Tlaib do it. Let Jamie Raskin do it. Ro Khanna do it. We've got plenty of people who are strong enough to be able to do it. If you can't, no problem. Step aside. But saying, I am the leader and I cannot do it. I can't explain complicated things to people. By the way, it's not at all complicated. I could do it in a second, okay? And so I'm not good at this job and that's why I'd like to be your leader. Not really an effective case for leadership. But despite their historic incompetence, Trump is going to out-bungle them. And so if these guys are right, tick, 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 tick. On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.